When it first hit the market 10 years ago, it weighed as much as a giant bar of chocolate and cost the price of a return ticket to New York. But with the box in your pocket and the phones on your head, like the nursery rhyme, it gave you music wherever you led. Of course, you can't keep a good idea down, and Sony has had its imitators, although the Walkman, by any other name, has to be called a personal stereo. But the success of Sony's original product can be told in the number of sales slips. To date, 500 million worldwide. 10 years on, it now comes as small as a cassette case and as cheap as an away day to Wolverhampton. What can one say but happy birthday?
Something distinctive about the Japanese is it's terribly difficult actually to separate myth from reality wherever you look in Japan. And it's the same with the Walkman. I mean, characteristically, Morita, the salesman of genius, has come up with a couple of very beguiling stories about how the Walkman came about. He wanted to hear music while he was playing tennis, or alternatively, if you ask him on a different day of the week, he was fed up with the, having his ears irritated in aeroplanes with those terrible headsets you get. But I believe that the origins of the Walkman come, first of all, from this extraordinary system of tradition of almost perverse innovation which Sony has. And that's to say, can you imagine going into the board of an American or European company and saying, look, you guys, I've got a terrific idea. We're going to produce a tape recorder which doesn't record. I mean, you would have got laughed out of the place.
Sony Walkman, you really feel the music with the Sony Walkman.
The Sony Walkman is a tiny stereo cassette player with truly incredible sound.
You really feel the music, you really feel it, you really feel the music.
Put on a Walkman and see the world in a whole new light.
Sony Walkman.
The Walkman from Sony, the one and only.
It was very difficult to conceive of a £100 product which was basically a stripped down version of a cassette recorder. And actually you got some very strange looks in the office, actually walking around with the prototype with a pair of headphones on your head. Even to an audience which was used to seeing technology and electrical gadgets and so on. That was then when we had to start putting headphones on people's heads.
Really want to hurt me.
Jack your body, jack your body, jack your body. And you may find yourself,
But she still says no.
come fly with me, let's fly.
Deux tasses de café, s'il vous plaît.
So that was the first Walkman. This was the second Walkman, which we called Walkman 2. Sports was evolved. This is when we started to get into Pinks, the Discman, the Walkman Pro. This unit, released this year, the Watchman.
What makes the Walkman so compulsive? It's not just that it's great to have decent quality sound and, and to be able to keep it to yourself. Obviously, that's marvelous. But the Japanese industrial designers understand human cupidity. They actually really understand what drives you to want to own and possess something. Even if you don't want to listen to music, you actually want to own, hold, and feel a Walkman.
It's like a rosary. It's a symbol of a new kind of medievalism. And people are looking for these little icons again. The Walkman is one such thing. It's a kind of personal container of icons, in a sense. You know, does it signify more than the music on it signifies?
They all have the same record, by the way. It's the same record, and a new one comes out every month, and the same noise comes out of it. It goes...
When you make a record now, there are, I think, tricks that you'd put in, certainly on a pop record, which are orientated towards the Walkman, towards the headphone. For instance, like hi-hats and things. So you can have a hi-hat going, instead of kind of going right in the middle of your head or somewhere like that, it's going kind of left and right.
Pop music's all about cash, and people are listening to pop music on their Walkmans. So what I thought was to take the cash directly to the Walkman. So, got a credit card and a Walkman, and we modified it slightly. This is what it sounds like. You're listening to hard cash there. That's money, and this is art. It's in a frame, must be.
This interesting little gadget is £800, and we give you 5p change.
Right. Just set up the camera on this little tripod. This is the little Sony Video Walkman, about the size of a hardback book, I suppose. And what it comprises is a little TV set and a little video recorder that uses these little 8mm videotapes, and also a conventional TV receiver. So by putting up a little aerial like that, I can throw a switch, and we'll briefly take an intermission for some bowls, I think. Right, I'm back again.
Sony Walkman, you really feel the music with the Sony Walkman. The music with the Sony Walkman, you really feel the music.
And you yourself go around listening to those for pleasure?
Yes, because I like Walkman.
Once competition started to come in with personal stereos, we then became very, very careful as to how the Walkman branding was used and how the name was portrayed, and were very, very quick to jump on anybody that actually used the name Walkman. We didn't want a complete Hoover situation happening.
If one were launching a product under the name Walkman tomorrow, one would perhaps see some advantages and disadvantages to the name. It's quite easy to say. It's two simple syllables, and even though they're very English, they are simple enough to understand in a lot of other languages. But unfortunately, the W of the word is perhaps difficult in some languages, and the fact that the name, though it talks about portability and convenience to carry around, it doesn't say anything about the fact the product is to do with music or sound, and you may want a name which expresses that a bit more. I suppose another disadvantage of the name is that it's quite sexist. People might complain now that it's Walkman rather than Walkperson. I don't know whether that was a consideration for Sony when they launched the product.
The Walkman, or I call it the Walkperson, to be non-gender specific, seems to protect the wearer from the outside world. It's as if they're invisible. The Walkman is a vivid symbol of our time. It provides a concrete image of alienation, suggesting an implicit hostility to and isolation from the environment in which it is worn. The Walkman is primarily a way of escaping from a shared experience or environment. It produces a privatized sound in the public domain, a weapon of the individual against the communal. It attempts to negate chance. You never know what you're going to hear on the bus or in the streets, but the Walkperson is buffered against the unexpected.
Please don't wear your Walkman all the time. Occasionally take them off so you hear people whining all around you, or falling down, or being sick, or panhandling you, or begging for money, or sobbing in the street. Then you can hear someone saying to you, I don't want to live with you anymore, I hate you, I am leaving you. Before, you couldn't hear that. They'd have left you and you're still going... The more I talk about it, the more attractive it sounds. It's like being totally drunk all the time. And if you're drunk all the time and wearing a Walkman, presumably you're pissed.
The really big significance of the Sony Walkman is something which I don't think anybody has yet quite tumbled to. With audio, as it is now transformed, you can take an audience of 1 million people and put the whole lot of them, each one at the centre point.
The Walkperson seems to represent the triumph of individual control over social spontaneity. You know, it is a way of keeping something in your grip, in a sense. But in fact, what the Walkperson is controlling is very limited indeed. And I think it makes somebody feel active, when in fact they're passive. It's as if the limits of control are your own body.
One of the most important uses for this medium is, I think, dealing with the rapprochement between religion and science, one of the greatest and most destructive splits we've ever had. There was a famous religious thinker of the 14th century, I think it was, Nicholas of Cusa, who once said, God is a sphere whose centre is everywhere and whose circumference is nowhere. Now, funnily enough, there's an exact technological parallel to that spiritual insight in this little piece of technology. And what this means is, I think, that the kind of message this medium means is a message of healing, of promoting the understanding that, for example, these two great fundamental visions of the world are not two different things, they're basically one thing. And this kind of realization is something which it is absolutely essential for us to develop if we are going to survive on Earth.
It turns television into a form of convenience culture. You can decide to pick up the Walkman, watch a bit, put it down, come back to it later. Now, with fast food, what happened when that was introduced was that food really adapted to fast food eating habits. So hamburgers really are a result of fast food as much as the other way around. Well, the same could happen with culture. Culture could develop so that you have little short bite-sized programs that you can watch on your way into work and watch on your way back. And the camera's quite small, it's about that big, and you can start to carry it around with you. You can start to use it to live your life. And this is producing a closed loop which you become a part of. Really, television will become a way of authenticating your own life by turning it into a television program rather than having to live it in the hectic and uncoordinated and chaotic way we normally do. You'll be able to bring it within the realm of television, bring it within the realm of editing even, and start to make sense of it through television.
One way around the isolating experience of the Walkman is to make identical tapes with your friends, line them up right on time, and then listen to the same music at exactly the same time. Then you can dance to it. You know you're all hearing the same thing at the same moment, if you can get it lined up right, which often takes a while. But that's a way of, in a sense, sharing something. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, go.
There is a wide variety of sandwiches available at the back of the car, and a variety of hot snacks. I trust that you'll all enjoy it. Yes, thank you.
Excuse me, could you turn it off? Excuse me, could you turn it off? Excuse me, could you turn it off?